Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and folks, we are broadcasting as usual from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you're looking for a bank that is going to impress you in terms of their service, but they're not going to disappoint you by being in the paper on Monday morning, and you know what I mean by that if you've been following the financial news this year with bank failures. Renaissance Bank is a rock-solid balance sheet, and they are big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them as a bank, but they're small enough to do it in a personal way. Now, I know that's a big package, and those are big promises, but that's what I've found myself with me and the clients that I work with in our dealings with Renaissance Bank. So if that's what you're looking for in a bank, go to renaissancebank.com and find one of their local offices and give them a call. And guess what? You'll have live people that answer the phone, and you can leave voicemails for what have you. And they're like real people there. Imagine that. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Yuquan Holloway. Yuquan is she's the founder, she's principal at Holloway Consulting Group. Yuquan, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So let's give everyone an introduction to your firm. How are you helping folks out there?
Sure. At Holloway Consulting Group, we demystify project management and process improvement. We help companies figure out how to deliver projects on time, on quality, with budget, while having a great time. And we also help them improve processes when they're not able to deliver whatever the service is to their specific client that they're in the habit of doing in a great way. And so we're helping them demystify by working with them and doing it ourselves as leaders in the industry, and by helping their people get better at leading projects and improving processes as well.
Okay, that sounds like great work. Talk about your journey and kind of what led you to start your firm and your background.
Sure. So I'm by trade a civil engineer, and it's funny I say by trade, really by education. And but I worked for over 20 years at the intersection of business and IT, mostly at the Coca-Cola Company. I spent great time there learning in the food service business, in the corporate technology side of the business. And I got the opportunity in 2017 to leave the company and do other things, or to stay at the company and continue learning and growing there. And I said, well, I've been doing this for probably, I think at that time, 18 years. I probably have 18 more years to work. I'm going to just test it out, go outside, see what I can do, see what kind of fun I can have. And I was thinking deeply on it, and I thought, I'm going to do what I had the most fun doing while I was at Coke, which was lead projects. And I was doing it first as a solopreneur, having a great time, being amazed that I could work on one project at a time, because I usually would have 9 or 10 back in
corporate's like that, right?
Back in the days when I was a project manager,
right?
Because I moved from project management to leading project managers and to leading a department. And so I thought, well, man, I'm having an awesome time just leading this one project. I really made it fun, and people started calling and asking for more. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I can take on one more. And then, I guess I can take on one more. And then I started adding people to help. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a company. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So that's kind of how I ended up here. Just starting by having a great time and trying to recapture what I like most during my corporate career, and then building a practice around it, because there's definitely a need for it since people kept calling about it. Yeah,
what a great story. What is it about the environment of Coca-Cola that really launched you into success? Because we hear this, I've interviewed a ton of people in the studio, and that seems to, for ex-Coca-Cola executives like you, that seems to be a common theme, that whether they mean to or not, they generate great entrepreneurs like you.
Yeah, I think it can be such a great opportunity. I would imagine even like some other very large businesses where you have the opportunity to do lots of different things inside of that organization. So, I came in as an analyst. I got to be a project manager. I got to learn Lean Six Sigma and apply it. And if you think about applying a tool or something you learned at an organization like a Coca-Cola, you have so many different places to try it and see it. And so for just the Lean Six Sigma side of things, I got to apply it in IT, which kind of was unheard of at the time. And then some of my coworkers were doing the same with treasury and insurance and other financial organizations. And they bring me along and say, hey, help me run this workshop. Help me run this workshop in HR and Lean Six Sigma. That's interesting. And so it was just such an education. And it's probably not as easy to get that type of education in other places that could be a tad smaller. So many opportunities to try and grow and learn things. And then I think I had a boss there who was a retired military general. He'd done a couple of stints in Vietnam, right?
Oh boy.
And that's how he ran our shop. And that was an awesome opportunity and education as well. Didn't feel like it at the time, but we had lunch the other day and I told him, I still pretend like I work for you, even though I work for myself.
Oh, wow.
Because I know what he's going to ask me. I know what kind of standards he had for us as a team.
Right.
He was tough. I just had some really great managers, really great experience, some really tough experiences and some bad managers. And all those things really grow you. So I think just having that much time at that organization of that size gave me so many opportunities. So I think that's probably what can launch people that come out of that environment, just like if they come out of probably, I don't know, the Army.
Yeah. Well, so you really, what you're describing, that's really cool, by the way. And what you're describing is you really came out kind of battle tested and, pardon the pun, hardened toward entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
You knew what you were in for,
in
a way. So that's great stuff. Let's talk about business processes. So, when you, I guess, how do your clients know they've got a business process problem, right? Because I can imagine a lot of clients might of yours might look at what they've got and they may recognize a problem, but they don't think in business process terms, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I like that you're asking the question this way because I'm always telling people we're great people to call when you have a business process problem, when your processes aren't meeting your customers' needs. But the way you ask the question kind of makes me think, do people even know they have a business process problem?
Right.
I would think, and that we're having this conversation, that I, as a business owner, I would think I have a people problem more than I often think I have a process problem. Like, why aren't the people doing what I asked them to do? Why aren't they getting shipments out on time? Why are they answering phone calls so late? And why are our metrics failing? And so those are often signs of process problems and not necessarily people problems, but I can see how a business leader may think they have people problems. And so we ask for people to call us when they have process problems, when they're not meeting their clients' needs like they used to be able to. Maybe they've grown and they're scaling and they just can't get the things out the door. Or maybe they've lost associates or they feel like, we're not answering the calls. We're not doing something that we need to do. We are about to launch new software, but we want to make sure all of our processes are solid before they create our systems to match the way we do things today. That's not going to work. That's just going to, make junk easier to get to quicker. So, people would call us when they have a process problem, but that typically presents as a people problem.
Yeah, I love that. And that they want to kind of get to you before they start launching into the people, right? Because people are such a valuable asset, right? So it's really important to properly diagnose what the problem is.
Right.
But can you give an example of maybe what that looks like, where you've gotten into a situation with a client maybe, and that client thought it was a people problem and you identified a process problem? Sure.
Yeah. We just did a process mapping workshop. I know that sounds so exciting.
I'm going to need some coffee for that one, Quad.
And I love to start really early, but I've gotten sensible over the years. I'm like, okay, people do not want to get to your process mapping workshop at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
But the reason we had this process mapping workshop is because I was talking to a client. We were preparing to launch some training for her associates. And I said, hey, how did your week go? Just being kind and getting ready to get off the phone. I hope you had a good week. And she's like, it was miserable. One of my associates' fathers passed 2 weeks ago. She's dealing with a lot of things, but we still had to do performance incentives and give people their bonuses and their raises.
Right.
But she's the only person that knows how to do that. And I didn't want to disturb her while she grieves. So it was all hands on deck, and we were trying to figure out how to get this done for over 1,000 associates by the deadline. And I thought, that's not a problem on the associate who lost a parent. That's a problem on the business, and that nobody knows how to do anything for this process except one person. It's not easy. It's not documented. There are no backups. There's just this one person. And so she saw it as a problem that person had, but truly it was kind of a process problem and a business problem, business continuity problem. And so I said, hey, would it be valuable for you if we were to map out all the processes in your organization? She had a growing organization, but a very small team. One person for each process, one person for talent management, one person for compensation, one person for benefits. And so those people are tied to their roles. If they take a vacation, or if they're out sick, nobody knows what to do. And so we spent a day mapping their processes and getting very clear on how the process currently flow, documented that so that they have information about it for later. But we also uncovered a lot of hot points and pain points throughout the organization. And we were able to capture that and determine which ones needed to be improved. They were having some issues in how they worked with payroll. We brought payroll into the same conversation and got those things documented and on the table. Of course, a couple of people were touchy and nervous about it, right?
Sure.
They've had these roles for years and nobody's been in their business, for,
Yeah.
And now we're about to uncover and get everything clean and organized. So actually, one of the top calls I'll get is from HR leaders because of this type of thing. But they have to know that this is the type of call they need to make, that it's not a people problem or to just keep throwing new people or backup people. But, are the processes clear? Do they work as designed? Are they right for what you're trying to do and the experience you're trying to give your customer?
Yeah. And you're coming at it from an empowerment point of view.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what I would think that's part of what you have to do with every client is you have to help them understand kind of the name of the game here, if you will, right? That this is not about some sort of artificial metric or something like this. This is about people and giving you an environment to do your job better.
It is. And it's funny because I remind myself of these things. We're trying to straighten out some things in our recruiting process. And I'm like, what's going on? Why does this take this long? And I'm like, oh, you're about to fall into the same hole you coach other people.
Well, and thank you for that, because what you're illustrating is this happens to all of us, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. Yuquan Holloway is with us, folks. She is with Holloway Consulting Group. So let's talk about maybe the types of, is there any kind of company that has a bigger problem with this than another, or is this pretty much across the board?
I think it's across the board.
Is it more age and stage?
Age and stage.
Like a fast-growing company or what have you, or what do you think?
That's a good question. I think larger organizations that have been around for a while are more apt to take a look at these types of things because they're always looking for the small wins. They're like on a constant march of looking at the small wins. And I think smaller companies and newer companies are so busy just trying to get things stood up that they aren't there yet. But this is a great way to stand an organization up. I mean, if you set things up right from the get-go, that's awesome. But typically it's the larger, more established companies that are on the hunt for the wins. And it's the larger, more established companies that are often looking for the best software or best, systems that are going to give them an edge up over their competition. And so they end up using services like mine more. And smaller companies are, especially if they're newer, they're like, is this something I even need to do? I'm just trying to get orders out the door. I don't have time to think about the way we do it just yet.
Right. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me shift gears just a minute because I want to go back to the people piece of this, because this is really, I think what listeners want to hear, because people are so important to their business.
They are.
One of the things that you talk about is upskilling associates by teaching them how to problem solve. And that, speaking of empowerment, that's what we're talking about right? So let's dive into that.
That is my favorite of all favorite things to do. And I'm trying to do more and more of it. People want to be valued and people want to feel valuable, and they want to be engaged and do well at their roles. And I think they often struggle with, how do I do that? Because things in the world shift so quickly and focus changes every day. And we're going after this month and we're going after that. And people may not have the playbook on how they can adapt and change. They may not have the playbook on how to be successful in their space. And so one of the biggest things I remember in 2005 was a 4-week, it probably wasn't 4 weeks, it felt like 4 weeks. It was probably just a 1 full week of Lean Six Sigma training. And I got my 4 binders. We did define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which are that's what the mnemonic DMAIC stands for, right? And I would take that, I took that over the next 5, probably 7 years and just applied it to almost anything, especially when I get stuck with something as a project manager working for that military boss. And I'd say, I probably could pull this tool out and use it. And then I got the opportunity to do it as a full-time job for several years. Best job I ever had at Coca-Cola, because I got to see so much of the business. But I thought, and I still think today, and our biggest success stories are going into businesses and training their associates on how to use a tool set, specifically DMAIC paired with project management tools, and then giving that associate a coach, a behind-the-scenes coach for 90 days that they meet with every 2 weeks for just 30 minutes to talk to them about their specific project or problem that they're working to solve, and get coaching on, try this. Did you try this tool? Oh, here's something we didn't necessarily cover in training, but you could use it on this. I've used it before. People with lots of experience. And when that 90 days is up, you have an associate who knows how to apply problem-solving tools to their daily jobs, but they've also delivered a project that had some value in it. So for one of our clients in our first year, we had about $100,000 worth of savings in the business after a year of about 15 to maybe it was 17 associates who went through that first year. And that was just with what we like to call Lean for Project Managers, a 1-day course. This year, we're rolling out a green belt level type course. And that means they're getting a lot more hands-on tools. And we think each associate will be able to deliver at least $50,000 in savings. But that's about empowering people and teaching them how to fish, and not just saying, hey, you do this for a living. You're our patient coordinator, or you're the analyst in this space. But hey, you do this, but you have free license to recommend improvements, to research, to do things. And it really, I think, engages some associates to the next level and make them feel like they're a really valuable part of the team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you the coaches you mentioned, do they come from within the organization or without?
They come from my organization.
From your organization. Okay. So they parachute in to help that associate after the training. After the training, yeah.
And they typically, like if it's a person that's a finance person, I have a guy who's been doing, he's a black belt in the finance space. But it can be, once you've applied and seen things work across several industries, you can apply them anywhere. But it just gives that person, how you go to a training and you sit there and you're like, yay. And then you go home, you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to, how do I do this? So they're that behind the scenes person just kind of boosting you up and helping you keep pushing through when you hit the walls like you're going to hit. And I think it's just been an awesome program that I'm very excited about getting into the hands of other organizations.
How do you talk to clients, and particularly potential clients that are thinking about hiring you and looking at your services as an investment? How do you talk about like the return that they're going to get? Yeah. Because that's kind of hard, and this comes up because of what you just mentioned, that $50,000 per associate kind of savings. How do you come up with that?
Well, right now we're building a dashboard of results that we've actually seen, because if you think about savings, every project isn't going to be about saving dollars. Some might be about increasing revenue. Some might be about removing risk that you could potentially get fined for. Some might be about increasing employee retention or improving customer satisfaction.
Right.
And so we're working to really summarize from the results that we do have to share back with other companies in a way that doesn't uncover anything for the other places, to show, see, this is a small investment in your associate for what you're going to see them be able to return back to the business.
Right. For
them as an associate and their happiness and feeling like they're valuable, but also for what they're going to do once they are let loose inside your environment. And I think the large companies know that. The small companies know it too, but they have to count their dollars a little bit more. And so it's that you ask a great question of making that sell and helping them understand how beneficial this can be.
Yeah. Because if they understand that, they may want to dive deeper into the pool, right?
That's right.
But every one of those components that you talked about, whether it's customer retention, employee retention, they all have either revenue and or expense implications. Every one of them.
Every
right?
last one of them.
Yeah. So it's pretty. I won't say it's easy, but there's certainly a relationship there that you can track.
Definitely
along the way.
And I've noticed a lot of companies are looking for something to do with their high potential associates. They'll say, okay, this person definitely has high potential. I want to retain them. I want to put them and throw them at the company's biggest problems. They have the energy. This is the perfect kind of thing for that high potential associate.
Got it. Yuquan Holloway is with us, folks. She's the founder, CEO, principal consultant at Holloway Consulting Group. So are there certain size organizations that you work with?
I typically am working with, I like to say the Fortune. I always need to know where this number comes in at. Probably more like Fortune 100s, because they often have lots of initiatives going on. They have projects that they can't totally staff from inside their company.
Right.
They have fast moving things going and problems that they need solved quickly, and they need to throw help and attention at it. And so those are the organizations that we're typically working with, or large nonprofits.
Oh, okay.
We've had a lot of success in working with large nonprofits as well.
Got it. Any industry focus per se, or it's pretty across the board?
It's pretty across the board. Okay. I think concrete, pizza, AIDS. It's and for years, for the past couple of years, I'm like, I need to say my niche is this. And I'd say I don't have a specific industry. It's more a specific
problem.
That's
a niche.
That is a niche.
Yes, that is a niche.
Problem.
Big lesson in that, folks. There are niches that are composed by things other than just industries, right?
I love that you've said that, and I'm going to write that down because I don't want to lose it.
Yeah. I may have said something people need to remember. That'll be a first, it's a quotable. But That's cool. So let's talk about, let's get to a success story. I really want to get that out because I can imagine you've got plenty. But obviously you don't have to mention names, but we don't want to mention names, but just the situation of where your work has brought transformation to a client and they're overjoyed with their association with your organization.
I had a relationship start with a client because of a former associate, and they're a large organization that's headquartered here out of Atlanta. But they had a Workday implementation coming up, and they knew they had 1 full year to get ready to do Workday. And Workday is a large people management software. I mean, it's where you put people's information about who they are. It's how you promote them. It's how you track their time off. It's how you track everything about the people in your organization. And you can't get it wrong. I mean, you could mess up people's paychecks. I've been in an organization where they messed up paychecks. It made me cry at least once a week because people weren't getting paid. But anyway, and so they knew that in order to get ready for it, they needed all of their information about their people processes documented very quickly in time for the implementers to write the business requirements and start to code and get them on their way. And they just had thrown their hands up. How do we even get this done? And I said, we can create a 2-day workshop and we can come in and get all of your processes mapped. Now, that means we had to identify all the stakeholders ahead of time. We had to have interviews with those stakeholders. But we were able to get all of that information together and in play and ready for them to get Workday started so they could get their system implemented on time and with high quality. And that was the start of a great relationship with that company. I mean, that was a small 2-day workshop, but then that turned into how do we solve the issues we're having with the amount of associates that never came back after the pandemic, but we still kind of have them in a limbo situation on payroll. Yeah. This kind of fake FMLA situation we have going on. Then how do we, set our objectives and agenda for the year? It's just an amazing amount of different problems. They said, we can throw this at this type of problem, that type of problem.
So you brought a pretty liberating process to them. Yeah. And I can see how organizations look at some of these issues and, there's like BHAG, right? Big, hairy, audacious goals, where there's BHAPs, right? Big, hairy, audacious problems.
Oh, I like BHAPs.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And they see this problem as just too big to tackle and they just let it go, right?
Yeah,
and what you're saying is I've got a way to help you dive in.
Exactly. And they're running an operation. And so they don't have necessarily time to stop and say, hold on, how do we deal with this? It's like noises in the background. And what I'll see people do is they'll throw temporary associates at it. So I worked with a client and they wanted to automate their accounts receivable, right? They were getting accounts payables. They were getting 1,000 invoices a day, which
accounts payable. Yeah.
That's a lot of invoices.
That's a lot of invoices.
And so they had this huge staff who had to look at it and code it and put it in the right place and pay it. And so they implemented a tool that didn't necessarily give them everything they needed. They couldn't pay their Canadian vendors with it. And so they just threw another person at it. So this person has to parse through. They have to go through the system. They have to find all the Canadian invoices, and then they have to pay the Canadian invoices. And I'm like, they're paying a hefty price for a tool that's supposed to do the heavy lifting.
Right.
But then they got a person combing through this. So no, let's figure out why you can't do this, and let's put that person on something else that you have going instead of this problem, because they're smarter. They can do other things. And so it's people just deal with stuff and they keep it moving is what I'm trying to explain. But every now and then it's a great idea to take a pause and say, what's keeping us from being great? Like, why aren't we able to do this? Let's solve it and get it done and move on to the next thing. And so that's what we see ourselves as helping people deal with those little idiosyncrasies or those things that aren't allowing them to be as great as they can be. Yeah.
Wow. Superb work from Yuquan Holloway. She is with Holloway Consulting Group. Wow. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been fun for me too.
You make business process fun.
It is so fun. Let me tell you, we have a great time. We play a little games. You'd be surprised, in all honesty, how much this will bond a team. Because people, and I can see the people that come in with a chip on their shoulder about it, especially it's their baby.
Right.
Everybody's told them their baby is ugly.
Right.
They've had this baby for 15 years. And it used to be great, or why are they treating them this way? And that's my first person I'm working to really win over. Yeah. And by the end, they finally feel heard and vindicated, and everybody's on board. And we're gonna get this baby some braces, and she's gonna be beautiful. Right. Yeah. So it's a really great bonding activity for a team, because they come in sometimes a little bit nervous. What's going to get uncovered? Are people trying to make me look a certain way? Yeah. And they leave feeling like this is us and this is our and not me. And so it's really a great people process.
Yeah. That's terrific. What great work from Yuquan Holloway Consulting Group. Well, I can't imagine there aren't some folks that listening to this interview wouldn't want to be in touch with you and learn more about your work and your services. So let's give them directions on how they can do that.
Sure. We are on the World Wide Web at hollowaycg.com. You can email us at info@hollowaycg.com. We're on all the socials. You're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn at Yuquan Holloway. We're actually on not Twitter. I just look at Twitter every day. I don't post anything. We're on YouTube, and I put informational videos there. Okay. Facebook and Instagram. But,
and folks, if you're driving along, don't worry. We'll have all this in the show notes so you can check it out later and get links to it all.
Yeah. And even you'll find if you, when you go to hollowaycg.com, if you want to take the course that we're offering to associates for a very reasonable price and pair it with coaching or not, you'll see that at our website. We'd love for you to check out Lean for Project Managers. I think it's an awesome course where we're just stepping you through the principles and giving you and engaging with you as well.
Got it. We'll make sure to put a link to that in the show notes as well.
Sounds awesome.
Terrific. Yuquan Holloway with Holloway Consulting Group. Thank you so much for coming in.
I appreciate you having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, just a quick thought for you. Speaking of dysfunction, if you've got problems with administrative tasks, bookkeeping, other pieces of your business that as a small business owner you really need to give up, but you've been reluctant to because you don't know how, well, I've got a solution for you. Pick up the phone and call Essie Escobedo, who's the chief executive angel at Office Angels. She has a whole team of angels that have various areas of expertise. They fly in, get the job done, get that dysfunction swept out the door, and you don't have to worry about it. You can worry about other bigger issues in your business. I know about their work. They do tremendous work. I know myself because I'm a client of theirs, and I couldn't run my business without them. So give Essie a call, 770-442-9246. Tell her I sent you, or you can also, if you're shy, go to officeangels.us to learn more before you call, but just give her a call, and I think you'll be glad you did. Hey, just an update. I've got a new book coming out later this year. It's called The Price and Value Journey, Raising Your Confidence, Your Value, and Your Prices Using the Generosity Mindset Method. If you're a professional services provider that has a pricing problem, this book may be for you. So if you want more information, go to pricevaluejourney.com. You can sign up for updates and learn more about that. And a thank you to you, our listeners. You have supported us over these past 7 years in just an unbelievable outpouring of support, and we are so grateful for you. Please continue to do what you have done over these 7 years, and that is share the show. Give us love on social media, because it's all about celebrating the great work of business leaders in our community, like Yuquan Holloway and the other guests we've had on this show over the years. We're here to be the voice of business for great business leaders in this community. So help us help live into that mission and we're grateful for you. So for my guest, Yuquan Holloway, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.